Hey,
Now,
I'm back.
okay, Bante is in already.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
Bante. Yeah.
Terence, for Tuesday's session, is it still the same format? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's also recorded.
It's up to Bante, up to you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. It's whether to share or not to share is Bante's wish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Same. Because you're the one recording. So you have the equipment to do it.
Yeah. So Tuesdays is still 8:30. Yeah, Bante.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So the first session will be after this on the 21st.
Oh, okay. 21st.
Yeah. So as usual, we'll start 50 minutes before 8:30.
Okay.
So how is the format?
Will be a bit of theory in front, followed by some guided practice, and at the end some Q&A.
Okay.
Just 3 parts. Yeah.
Okay. That'll be good. Okay, you can start, Bante.
Okay, sure. Now it's 4:30, and welcome back to the final segment, right? Final talk of this retreat. And yeah, welcome back to whoever is surviving. Now we are going to cover the last portion of the presentation, which is the fourth foundation of mindfulness, mindfulness of the Dhamma. Terence, okay. Okay, so this is the last quadrant, the fourth foundation. So basically, when we covered actually the first few, right, the mindfulness of the body, right, then the so-called the chorus or the stock formula will mention if a person not cling, right, mindful of the rising and passing away. So it's actually you're covering this already, covering the Dhamma. So if a person mindful of the body correctly, you are covering the Dhamma. Yeah, when you cover not being greedy, right, to the world, that's covering mind states also. It's all together. It's a package. So if a person just for the sake of mindful of the body, you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, no different from a non-meditator doing breathing exercise, right? Somebody doing health, just breathing in, breathing out, or any medical student, right? They just study the body parts, no different, right? So if you want to include the spirituality element, then we have to talk about reducing desire. That's the key factor. Okay, so similarly, this stuff is actually getting more and more refined, right? So the first quadrant about mindfulness of the body, something gross, right? Physical, then mindfulness of feelings, getting more subtle. Mindfulness of the states of mind, even more subtle, and these are mental qualities. So this is something more supposedly more refined, right? So I'm going to try my best to explain all this. So the first thing that I'm going to talk is the 5 hindrances, followed by 5 clinging aggregates, followed by the 6 sense media. So the 6 sense media you can see in the diagram on the right, right? The 6 your organs. In science, you just learn 5, right? In the primary school science, your sight, your touch, hearing, smell, taste. Then yeah, so if people do not know what is the 6th sense, then the Westerners will think, oh, 6th sense, ESP, extra sensory perception. No, right? So in the maybe the Eastern philosophy, right, 6th sense, ancient days, it means the thinking, the mind door, right? You think about the past, what you have for breakfast, right? Things that other people cannot see, cannot hear, cannot smell. So this is your 6th sense. You can experience it, right? And of course, 7 factors of awakening, and the last one, 4 noble truths. So we are going to cover these things one by one. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so first we are going to cover this thing called the 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances are you look at the column on the left, right? Essential desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. Right? So it's actually considered phenomenon, right? Natural phenomenon. Obviously, all these things sort of will occur at any point of time, right? To anybody. And if you look at the most right-hand column, right, the so-called path of eradication, if you really want to so-called overcome all these hindrances, right, sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, worry and doubt, you got to reach a very high state of mind, right? So if you really want to overcome this sensual desire, you've got to become a non-returner or an arahant. So it's like it's a high-level Buddhist saint, right? A non-returner is a third stage of sainthood. They said that a person won't be reborn in this realm anymore. Will be reborn in the pure abodes, right? So this is the non-returner. So a person that totally sort of overcome greed and hatred, right? Then they can become a non-returner, and better still, they become an arahant, right? Then free, don't even need to be reborn in the pure abode. And then same thing, right? Ill will, non-returner at least, sloth and torpor, right? So let's say after lunch, if you're meditating and you feel sleepy, it's perfectly all right, right? Because only an arahant can overcome this sloth and torpor, right? So if you sleep, if you feel drowsy, it's all right, nothing wrong. And restlessness and worry, right? Same thing, arahantship and non-returner. So if you meditate and your mind starts to wander around, feel restless, you want to worry, you want to plan, very normal, right? Because all these things are called natural phenomenon called dhammas. And last one, doubt, right? You have doubt of the path, whether is it real, no? Is this the Four Noble Truth real or not? This spiritual happiness real or not? Only stream entry, if a person do get to experience the spiritual happiness from letting go of desire, then you have some confidence. At least you know, no, this path is correct. So, somewhere close to stream entry, right? So, so these are the 5 kinds of hindrances. Okay, so we look at the center column, right? So the center column are more like the kind of immediate kind of solutions to sort of overcome or temporarily suppress or relieve these problems or hindrance. And they are called hindrance because they block our path to enlightenment, right? So if a person reach enlightenment, then these are no longer called hindrances, right? And again, using what we talked about earlier, what do we mean by overcoming hindrances, right? Is it totally, let's say for sloth and torpor, right? Is it totally you don't sleep, right? Totally awake, right? That means you overcome sloth and torpor. So what does it mean, right? Or is it because the mind has overcome, right? This surpass this sleepiness. So there depends on how you interpret it. Okay, so first we talk about sensual desire. So this is the commentarial methods. So the first one will be either first jhana based on bodily foulness, that means asubha meditation. Right? But last week in the talk, we mentioned that in the Asubha Sutta, in the suttas, visualization kind of meditation actually doesn't enter jhana. It's entering another kind of samadhi if they are fixated long enough. And so this is the commentarial kind of explanation. So one possibility is a person does jhana first and they synchronize using the visual element. It's just like, for example, a person doing visualization kind of practices is like developing something like telescope, right? And let's say they want to be an astronomer, they develop some powerful telescope. And the telescope, let's say if there's no coolant, right, then it might get overheated, right? So the jhanas is more like the cooling unit, right, to cool down the equipment. Right, so these are the 2 kinds of samadhis. Okay, then The next one, ill will, right? First jhana based on method. Again, this is the commentarial solution. But if you were to look at the another sutta called the Mettang Sutta, so the METTA plus another M behind Mettang Sutta, right? You can find that the four Brahma Viharas, they don't really sort of go through the first four form jhanas, right? Based on the sutta method. The sutta method is directly, sort of enlarging the mind into the various directions, into the space and the universe. If you do it long enough, it will enter formless concentrations, right? These are the four Brahma Viharas. So again, this is commentarial method. Sloth and torpor. Okay, so this one is one of the solution is perception of light, which is correct. Is one of the methods. Just one. There are many methods. Later, I will go through the sutta. So again, a lot of people have this maybe sloth and torpor method. Then when they sleep in the meditation, right, then they get up and they tell you, I feel so refreshed after the meditation. Oh, meditation is so relaxing and so calming. Actually, they're sleeping. So some people can sit there and sleep for 2 hours, 2 hours straight. And they tell people, I can meditate for 2 hours. Yeah. So again, there are many methods of overcoming. So I give an example. In some of the Thai forest practices, they have interesting practice. One of the practice is, how do you call it? Overnight meditation. Overnight meditation. That means you get to sit throughout the night and until daybreak. Until that means the next morning, right? Sometimes once in a while they have this practice. So I tried a few. Sometimes some monks, because sometimes the monastery have a lot of visiting monks. So every monk they follow their temple practices and they just carry out. So that time, being a junior monk, I just follow. The senior monk do. I just do a lot, so I just follow. So after following a few rounds, then I noticed that those who try this overnight meditation, probably their reason is they want to overcome sloth and torpor. So what happened is those who went through this overnight meditation session, the next morning, they just sleep throughout the whole day, right? Then those who didn't go through this overnight meditation, then they have to do extra work with the sweeping and the area cleaning, right? So it becomes the community might not be so happy, right? The rest of the working monks, hey, how come you get to sleep the whole morning? Then we do all the work. So it becomes like, does it really overcome this sloth and torpor? So sometimes we have to question ourselves. What do we mean by overcoming sloth and torpor? Does it mean not sleeping at all? Right? And of course, there is ascetic practice, Dhutanga practice in the Buddhist tradition. Is an optional practice, but one of the ascetic practice is not to lie down to sleep. That means you can sit down and sleep. Yeah? You can sit down, lie against the wall, lean against the wall, but make sure it's not totally, lying flat on the ground, and you can sleep. You can be lying down 45 degrees and maybe sleep, right? So this is one of the ascetic practices, right? Can you go back to the PowerPoint slide? Oh yeah, okay. Right, so this is again sloth and torpor. So I give a few examples. If let's say a person is being sedated, if they're in hospital, I'm sure they will they call it get drowsy and sleep. They take certain medication, get drowsy and sleep. Or maybe if let's say you want to talk about worst case scenario, if a person is being mugged at night, they kind of sleeper hold, somebody choke them, right? They'll get concussion, right? Also get drowsy and they knock off. So what do we mean by a person not being having sloth and torpor, right? So is it totally not having sloth and torpor, or is it the mind that surpass sloth and torpor, right? So again, this is a food for thought. And restlessness and worry. Restlessness and worry, right? So to have the temporary method is serenity, right? Based on this commentarial method. So it's one not wrong, is equanimity, right? Should be the more proper method. Equanimity, then the mind is calm, right? So it's quite close. And doubt, defining of phenomenon, right? So if a person have certain doubt, right, you can ask a question to the teacher, and it will solve the problem for that moment. So this is one of the method of suppression. Okay, so we move on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about there's this sutta called Nodding. It's a story of Venerable Mahamoggallana. Right, he's the left hand disciple of the Buddha, so he's the foremost in this concentration and these psychic abilities. Right, so this the monk before he got enlightened. He was meditating and he was like nodding off, sleeping, right, falling asleep. And the Buddha happened to walk past and saw him nodding off and sleeping and gave some advice, gave some tip, right? So there's a whole range of tips. So one of them is walking meditation. Let's say all the certain steps you do already, still feel drowsy and sleeping, then you can do walking meditation, right? This is like the second last resort, second last solution. Later I'll go through the first few solutions, right? So if let's say a person still walk and still feel sleepy, right? Still want to fall off, right? Still walk and can sort of get lopsided, like drunk, like a drunk person, like a traffic policeman will pull you off and ask you to walk in a straight line. You walk halfway, then you get slanted. Yeah, you cannot walk in a straight line. Right? But of course, if you are not drunk and you meditate and you're so tired, then you try walking meditation, and you walk and still can stray to the side and fall off. Then that means you are very exhausted. Then the last resort is yes, please by all means lie down, go and rest. Then so what to do when a person is walking, right? So if a person is walking, mindful of the front and back, right? Then you walk back and forth, right? The senses inwardly immersed, your mind not straying outwards. Yeah. So again, like we mentioned right at the beginning of the talk, the person is mindful of walking meditation. Same thing, the eyes is cast downwards. If you're doing walking meditation, but if you're crossing the road, yes, please by all means look at the traffic, look out for the vehicle. Don't always look downwards, then you get yourself into trouble. It's possible that by doing this, you will shake off your drowsiness. Okay, so this is one of the various methods. So we're going to move on to the next slide of the previous solutions. So these are all the other methods. Okay, so the first advice, if you feel sleepy in meditation, right, do not pay attention to the sleepiness, right? That's if you are meditating. Some people, they come to meditate, they have certain issues. They say, I cannot sleep, I have insomnia problem, right? Then you do the opposite, right? And then you pay attention to sleepiness, enjoy the sleepiness, then go and sleep. So this is for those who have insomnia problem, right? But for those who are trying to meditate, first thing, do not entertain the sleepy feeling, right? Because the sleepy feeling is so nice, you entertain to it, go to La La Land, confirm. Okay, so the first solution, in fact, is actually perception of light, right? It's in the commentarial solution. I didn't put it inside here. So if a person is mindful of visualizing bright light, it might stimulate the senses a bit and make them awake, right? So perception of light is one of the method. That is why Venerable Moggallana has psychic power, because he visualized the light, and this is one of the methods. And if by doing so, again in the previous retreat last week, I did mention the pros and cons of visualizing the light, right? In my course, I don't sort of encourage a person to do it, because I'm also not qualified, or maybe I don't want to be responsible if anything happens, you see anything, right? So this is the thing that I'll be skipping. And the next one, if you still fall drowsy and sleepy, then recall the Dhamma, right? Recall the Dhamma. That means you remember some teachings, right? Then you sort of do your own internal kind of debate, Dhamma discussion in your mind, right? So this is possible. So sometimes, you sit down and think of the Dhamma. So it's part of Dhammanusati, mindfulness of the Dhamma, not this four foundation of mindfulness, but the six recollections of mindfulness of the qualities of the Dhamma. That means you think of the Dhamma, have any doubt, any question, you try to mentally kind of discuss or debate. So this is one way to keep yourself awake. And if you still feel sleepy after doing that, then there's another one, do chanting, right? So mentally you do chanting. Let's say if you do it at home, one person, you can chant out loud by all means. But if you, let's say you go to a meditation hall full of people, you do this, people will look at you, what you doing, right? So yeah, you can actually chant in your mind, do on your own sub-vocalization, chant the, you can do your own chanting of the scriptures. And if you still feel sleepy, then we get more physical. So you can pull your earlobes, right? This is another way. You halfway, and then you can rub your face, pull your ear, rub your limbs, that kind of stuff. Okay, next. So normally I see people at the end of meditation, then they start to rub their face and rub their limbs, right? So maybe they're sleeping throughout the whole day in the meditation. Actually, if you're tired, you should do this when you're drowsy. Okay, so next one, if you still feel drowsy, right, then you can wash your eyes, right, with water and etc. Yes, so this attending to the light, right, I mentioned before. And yeah, then the last one, if let's say after walking meditation, right, walking meditation, you walk and you feel drowsy and sleepy, then you can please lie down and sleep, right? Of course, for sleeping meditation, there's this posture called the lion's posture, right? So the Buddha like to lie down on the right side. Is sort of, they call it the lion's posture, right? So if a person mindful and alert, lie down, right? So this is the one of the method. So the lion's roar posture, interestingly, you have to lie down in a way that you try to balance your right hand to support your head, right? So it takes some skill and balance also. Yeah? So if let's say you are really tired and you still lose balance, and yeah, please lie down normally, right? Lie down normally. Of course, I haven't came up with a name for lying down meditation. If you want to talk about normal sitting, I did came up with a name. Last week we have this full lotus inverted posture, right? So you can refer to the last week's video for more information, right? So if you, okay, so we move on the next slide, right? So if you do all these steps, then if you want to sleep, still feel sleepy and sleep, by all means sleep. So mindfulness, all right, mindfulness is sort of practice when a person is awake. If a person is awake, so when you sleep, by all means sleep, right? Don't need to be mindful of impermanence and whatnot because you're unconscious already, right? So if a person, the whole idea of this practice is when a person is still awake, right? So we have to practice and try to reach this unconditioned state of mind when a person is still awake, right? So when a person has sort of transcended the mind, so when they are asleep, interestingly, then there's a kind of passive kind of samadhi that's always around. And it's always the effortless kind of samadhi that's always there, right? If a person is enlightened, or sometimes they call it sunyata, whatever it is. So once they have this, so even when they are asleep, then it's always there. So that's why only an arahant can overcome all the hindrances, right? So if a person, when still practicing, you have hindrances, it's okay, very normal. It's a natural phenomenon. Okay, so now we are going to talk about these 5 aggregates, right? Earlier on in the guided session, we've covered, right, some of the aggregates. Last week, we also covered on this, the same thing, right? So I'll sort of repeat it because it's important, right? Sometimes people cannot get it the first round. You need to listen. You can replay from last week, or also can sort of repeat again. So starting from the left corner at the bottom, right? We talk about the 6 senses first. Yeah, left bottom corner, right? So we have worldly phenomenon, yeah, the yellow box, right? So for example, if you look at the screen over here, right? This is the worldly phenomenon, right? The screen is real, sort of at least real to you, yeah? You can call it an illusion, whatever it is. So the screen is there, the words are there, and then you use your 6 sense organs. You know? So you have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, right? So using our eyes, right? Then we look at the screen, right? The screen is called the rupa, the form, right? The visual form, right? So the physical form is there, the colors are there, the words are there, the shape is there. And when the conditions are right, the lighting is okay, you can see everything, then we say eye consciousness arise. Eye consciousness arise. So that is actually the 5th aggregate, right? Eye consciousness arise. So when eye consciousness arise, and the 3 things meet, that means this the visual object, right, is this thing meets with the eye consciousness and your organs, right? These 3 things meet. It is called contact. It's called contact. So now we are going to talk about this eye consciousness in detail, right? This awareness. So this awareness is like a package. It's 5 in 1, right? Venerable Sariputta mentioned that nama rupa, this body, this material and mental, right? Mental and material, this nama rupa, these 2 things are like a deck of cards, 2 cards stacking with each other. They come together, they cannot be separated, right? You cannot have form without the mind, and you cannot have mind without the form. Yeah, they both sort of exist kind of together. So when we pay attention to something, they are actually 5 in 1. 5 in 1. Let's say if we look at the screen here, so there is the form. Yeah, there's the 4 elements. Yeah, form is defined as the 4 elements. If you look at the blue box on the top, yeah, form, yeah. So it's defined as the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, water. So these 4 elements is nothing magical. It's just the ancient times they use it as a way of classifying things, right? That's last time they don't have chemistry yet. They don't have like the chemistry, the elements, you know, the periodic table. You don't have those hydrogen, aluminium, zinc, tungsten, whatever not. So they use the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, water. Sometimes they have more, you know, have the 5 elements space. They sometimes add more elements, consciousness element, so on and so forth. So for now, we just use 4 elements. So if a person, let's say, were to look at this worldly phenomenon, which is this screen, then this screen consists of 4 elements. So anything hard, you try to knock against this, it has solid form, right? And it has temperature, your screen, you heat up, right? Has temperature. And here's maybe some water, water vapor, right? Humidity, and so on and so forth. So it's the 4 elements. So same thing, these are external. Then we talk about internal, our own body, right? So our body also made up of the 4 elements. So we talked about earlier on maybe the perspiration, your saliva, your tears and sweat, all these are the water elements, fire, the heat, right? Earth, all the solid parts in the body, and the wind is like the air, yeah, the breath, all the gas in your organs. So all these are the 4 elements. So it can be internally, externally. So this is the first aggregate, and the next one would be feelings. Feelings. So again, there's a lot of interlapping terms we use, right? So earlier on we talked about 4 foundation of mindfulness. The second quadrant is actually this feeling, mindfulness of feeling. So if a person is mindful of feeling, you're actually mindful of the 5 aggregates. Right? If a person is mindful of body, right, they are also mindfulness of the 5 aggregates. There's also a mindfulness of the Dhamma, right? So it's actually all interlinked. It's very repetitive, right? So if a person is mindful of the feeling, so the same thing, you have pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, right? So these are the kinds of feelings and sensations, right? If you look at the screen, you might like the color, you might not like the font and the kind of stuff. So different kinds of feelings arise when you have contact, right? So similarly, the sound you hear, you have pleasant, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling, whatever it is. And the next one is perception. Perception, the third aggregate, perception, right? So perception is basically all the things you've learned before in the past, then you try to cognize at the present, right? So if you look at the screen, how you can look at the words and you can understand the words because of your perception. You've learned the word before, perception. You learn in school, all the letters and alphabets. Yeah, you learn before. Then when you look at it, you understand. So there's perception. So there are verbal conception and non-verbal. Now sometimes you may not know the words. Let's say there's a foreign language. You look at it, you have no idea. You have no idea. So there's no verbal sub-vocalization. You have no idea. You look at totally new language. You have no idea. Your mind is stunned. Yeah. So that is also another kind of perception, right? So there are many kinds of different perceptions. So basically, it's using based on past memory, and you try to identify with whatever jargons and terms that you learned before. So this perception. And the next one is mental formation. Mental formation is the fourth aggregate, right? So if a person pays attention to something, the moment the attention is being formed, right? The moment the thought arises, that is actually mental formation. So earlier on, when we do the practical meditation, may not be easy to catch, right? So I may do the experiment again. So if let's say we raise our finger, right? We raise our finger, we do a short experiment, right? And maybe everyone can raise the finger and try out. Okay, so we are trying to point, where is our attention now? Right? So is our attention always up there all the time, right? Some people, attention is always there. Can you detect where is your attention? So if your mindfulness is sharp, you can actually detect, right, your attention, how it arises, how it pass away. So it requires some training, right? So so for beginners, I always say, and pay attention to the 4 elements first, right? The later part of the aggregates is maybe a bit harder to sort of detect, right? So we pay attention to the 4 elements first. It's easier to detect. And the last aggregate is actually your attention, the awareness, right? Consciousness, right? So consciousness, so can we come back to the PowerPoint? Yes, this slide. Oh, it's gone again. Okay, some technical difficulty. While Terence is busy trying to set up the PowerPoint, I'll maybe tell a story, right? So in the Zen tradition, right? The Zen tradition, when the sort of the first Indian monk went to China, there's the Venerable Bodhidharma, right? He went to China, and that is the Zen lineage, right? Different from the Theravada. So when he wanted to look for his next successor, right? When he wanted to look for his next successor, he has some kind of like a test, right? So he has four candidates, four disciples. So he wants to look for his next patriarch, the next in line to take up the leadership, right? So he sort of like tests his disciples. So one by one, they come for interview. So the first disciple being asked a question by Venerable Bodhidharma, he asked a question to his first disciple, first candidate. Okay, what have you learned so far throughout all these years? So the first disciple mentioned, oh, everything is made of the body parts. The body is so foul, so disgusting. The hair of the nail, hair, nails, teeth, skin, etc., etc. So he named the body parts. And this Venerable Bodhidharma, he laughed. Yeah, he made a big laugh. Haha, you only achieve the hair of my body. That means you only get the surface of the Dharma. Right, so he laughed. And the first candidate walked out. He said, next candidate in. It's a bit like audition for the Got Talent. Yeah, so the next came in and being asked the same question, right? What have you learned so far? So this time, this candidate is saying, oh, everything is made of the four elements, earth, fire, wind, water. So the body, the sky, everything, made of the four elements, right? So again, this Venerable Bodhidharma, he laughed, right? He said, ha ha ha, okay, so you only got my skin. You only got my skin, right? So you get something slightly deeper than the first student. So the second student left and called in for the third student. So the third student came in and being asked the same question, what have you learned so far throughout all these years? So this student, he mentioned all the dharma, all the chim and profound stuff, impermanence, non-self, emptiness, and whatever not. So all the dharmas. And the Bodhidharma, again, he laughed, right? He laughed very loud. So he said, you got my flesh. So he got something deeper. He got a flesh. And then again, this student left. And the last student, he came. And the last student being asked by Venerable Bodhidharma the question, what have you learned so far all these years? And this last student, he didn't say anything. He just bowed down and then he just walked away. And this Bodhidharma, he laughed. You got my bone, right? So the last student was being selected as the next patriarch in line, right? Being is the successor for Venerable Bodhidharma, right? So again, in the Zen tradition, the interview is so different from some of the Theravada traditions, the interview, right? So if you apply Zen tradition style to maybe to the Burmese style, maybe you might fail, right? And vice versa, maybe the Burmese style to the Zen style, then you might fail also. So how does he choose, right? So earlier on we talk about mindfulness of the states of mind, internally and externally, right? So some of the Zen masters, they are very good meditators. They're able to, sometimes they take up these ascetic practices and they don't lie down and sleep. They sit down and meditate for whole day, sometimes enter samadhi and do fasting, enter into the caves and meditate long periods of time. So sometimes they develop certain sensitivities in the mind, right? So sometimes they don't even need to interview. They just look at the person. Okay, so this is the next successor. By looking just by the person, nothing to do with phrenology, not about how handsome you look, that kind of stuff. But again, when they look at the person, they can actually know the state of mind, right? So they want to look, okay, this person, or what level of practice he is in already. So that's how they choose. So some masters, they choose by this method. No need to talk, right? Just bow down and they just walk away. Okay, so that's the next successor, right? Okay, so again, is the PowerPoint slide ready? Okay, so yeah, the slide is ready, and we can talk about again this consciousness. Okay, so again, consciousness is we talk about our six senses, right? There are different uh, kinds of consciousness: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. So eye consciousness arise based on the visual forms, right? The forms present, then eye consciousness will arise. Then same thing, ear consciousness arise based on hearing, right? So if there's an audible sound, right, there's some decibels, some vibrations in the air, then you can hear sound. So ear consciousness will arise. And same thing, the smell, right? There's some aromas that go into your nose, right? And same for your tongue. If there's taste, right? There's something in your tongue, then there's some taste, then the tongue consciousness will arise. And the skin, the same thing, right? If you touch something tactile, then the body consciousness will arise. And the mind, right? Whatever you think, any kind of ideas, right? Anything you can recall, can be visual, non-visual, whatever it is, then the mind, this consciousness will arise, right? So interestingly, Buddhism talk about consciousness in terms of it arising based on condition, right? So actually the Buddha doesn't want, okay, maybe there are some, the pre-Buddhist religions, they will talk about consciousness as though it's a fixed entity, right? Consciousness is there, and this consciousness will go through life after life, right? Reborn, and this consciousness is like something overseeing everything. So the Buddha want to break this perception, this kind of thinking. So he introduced this concept of momentarily, right? Ever changing, ever arising kind of consciousness. So this is one of his method to create this kind of detachment, to break down ego actually, right? So consciousness, there are again many kinds of consciousness. In the Abhidharmic sense, there are 80 over, or maybe some even maybe 90 or even 100 kinds of consciousness, right? From the very unwholesome states of mind, greedy states of consciousness, all the way to purer states of consciousness, even jhanic or even Aryan states of consciousness. So they are wide spectrum of consciousness, and through this spectrum, that a person can have different doors of consciousness. So a person can see things with an unwholesome mind, hear things with an unwholesome mind, that kind of stuff. So again, if a person has a wholesome mind, they can see with a wholesome mind, hear with a wholesome mind, so on and so forth. So again, this is a very deep topic. I won't go into detail, but the whole idea is for beginners, right? Just try to catch the four elements, right? We try to catch something that is tangible, something obvious, right? Because something is very hard to catch really, the mental formation, consciousness, attention, so hard to catch really. So we do something easier to detect, which is the form. So once you detect one, actually all five of them is present. All five of them is present. So once you able to observe or sense one of the elements, the earth, fire, wind, water, all five are there, all five are present. You need to perceive, right? You need to give a name. You call it a fire element or whatever element. So it's all there. It's all there, right? So you can break down later, but the whole idea is you catch the elements. Okay, so I finished explaining, right, these five aggregates. So the first form, rupa, is classified under rupa, material, and the next four, feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, it's represented as mental, nama, right? So both nama, rupa. So we are trying to understand nama, rupa, right? Understand this mind, understand this whole idea, these five aggregates. So important because like in the guided meditation, all our experiences, right, is experienced through these 5 aggregates, experienced through this attention, right? All the ups and downs in life, all the pleasure, happiness, pain, right? Or in the first noble truth in Buddhism, right? All the separation from loved ones, right? Birth, aging, sickness, and death. All these are experienced through these 5 clinging aggregates, right? So the whole idea is to understand this, not just in theory, but also see this in practice, and then eventually transcend, overcome it. Right, so that's why in the first sermon, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, they talk about what the 12 permutations, right? So actually you can break down 3, yeah, 3 by 3, each noble truth 3, right? So the first one being understand in theory, next is practice, and the last one is to realize. So there's 3, right? So 3 times 4, then you get 12. So the whole idea is to, now it's just a theory, and of course, next one is to practice, and eventually you can sort of realize, right? So that's the whole idea, the learning curve. Okay, next. Okay, so the next Dhamma, next mindfulness of the Dhamma, we're going to talk about this thing called the 7 factors of enlightenment, right? 7 factors of enlightenment. So a lot of Buddhist temples, sometimes you might see this kind of image or see this kind of statue where the Buddha is seated and there's something like a serpent or snake, 7-headed snake, sheltering the Buddha. Sometimes can be 9-headed or how many headed depending on the artist. Right? So for the 7-headed snake, that will represent the 7 factors of enlightenment. So the story comes about from the Buddha's time, when after he got enlightened, right? There's this serpent king, right? This Muchalinda, this Naga, came and sheltered the Buddha when it was raining. So this is the background story. So, but again, we are not going to talk so much about the snake. We are going to talk about what it represents, right? The 7 factors of enlightenment. So there are 7 things. So the first one being mindfulness, second, investigation of the Dharma, third is energy, fourth, rapture, fifth, tranquility, sixth, concentration, and the last one, equanimity. So these are the 7 factors. Okay, so I actually briefly touched this on the last week's retreat, right? Today I'm going in detail. So the first factor is mindfulness. So earlier on we talked about mindfulness, right mindfulness. So this is important, the right mindfulness. So this is the first factor. It's not about ordinary mindfulness. So if you're just being ordinary, circular mindfulness, no attention to detail, observe this, observe that, know everything, read the news, check the weather report, know the stock market, mindful of everything. That is not the kind of mindfulness we want. Although it might be good for your work or your livelihood, but not for spiritual sense. So in the spiritual kind of mindfulness, we're actually mindful of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So we need to look inward, not just the outward kind of mindfulness. So we have to observe the body, feeling, mind, and the dhammas. And the next one, investigation of the Dhamma. So if a person investigate on the impermanent nature, right, of these 4 foundations. So this is the second factor. And the third one, energy, right? So energy means requires enthusiasm, requires interest, right? So if a person is mindful and investigate, then some people, maybe they just investigate for a few seconds, for a minute, and they stop, and no more interest, right? So then the 7 factors won't pull through. So you need the third factor, which is enthusiasm, some energy or some effort, right? Continuous kind of effort. So again, the example I will give is, the example where the Buddha was asking about mindfulness of death. Mindfulness of death. So it can be any kind of object of meditation, right? So the Buddha was asking his students, how frequent do you contemplate on this mindfulness of death? So mindfulness of death is to reflect, one day I'm subject to death, right? So death is unavoidable. So this is one of the reflections we do. So one of the students told the Buddha every year. So the Buddha said, no, too slow. And the next student, every season, right? Now it's the rain season, there's a summer season, and so on. So the Buddha said, no, too slow. Another one, every month, also too slow. Another one, every week, also too slow. Another one, every day, also too slow. And the last one, every breath, right? Every in breath, I might, when I breathe in, I might not live to breathe out. Yeah, when I breathe out, I might die also. Yeah, so then the Buddha said, yes, this is the right kind of effort, right? So imagine you need this kind of effort, right? So if you want to talk about progress, right? Because every moment we are actually creating karma, right? Mental karma, with verbal karma, and so on and so forth. So the mental one, there's a lot. So if we do not have right effort, then every moment, no, depending on what's your tendency. Let's say the mind has habitual tendency to gear towards unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome habits. Mind like to complain, have a grudge, grumble, whatever it is. And every moment is so unwholesome, right? So to overcome, just to have a bit of profit, just small profit of good karma, now how much effort it requires, right? So it requires a lot of RPM, this reflection per minute, right? A lot of right reflection, right? To generate good karma, this net good karma. Okay, so it requires this kind of effort. So this is the third factor, right? So that's why throughout the guided meditation, I will always mention, do not forget to be mindful of your impermanence of your breath or impermanence of whatever it is. So the effort must be there, right? So this is the important thing. Then the next thing, if the first three conditions are correct, you're mindful, right? You investigate the Dhamma, then you have enough this effort going on, right? And when the desire is reduced, then the fourth thing will appear, rapture. So it appears like a chain reaction, right? So the first three is the condition, the cause, and the result, there will be some sign. That means a rapture. That means you are doing it correctly, right? Some incentive. So you meditate halfway, you feel joy, right? You meditate in the parts of the body, think of the lungs, the liver, and kidney. Or suddenly you feel happy. Not because you're psychotic or crazy, no, because you let go. Then there's a spiritual kind of joy, right? Again, if let's say you're obsessed with the organs, and then you're like the scientist in the body exhibition, you like to enjoy the beauty of the plastinated kind of body, then that's a different kind of joy. But we're talking about spiritual kind of joy and happiness that is beyond this pleasure from the flesh, right? So of course, circular mundane happiness, right? When you watch maybe entertainment, listen to music, go shopping, right? Eat your favorite food. This is, we call it circular mundane happiness. So earlier on in the guided meditation, we have the concentrated kind of happiness. If a person watch the breath, right, then they enter into this, we call it samatha kind of happiness. That means you need to condition the mind to be one-pointedness, right? Then again, this one, let's say if a person, and right at the beginning, they do these impurities of the body, they think of the hair, think of the nails, think of the skin. Maybe for some people, they might already feel this. They might already experience certain joy or rapture from thinking of the impermanence of the body. Right? When the conditions are right, have enough loving kindness, thinking of enough impermanence, right? Non-greed, non-hatred, desire reduce, conditions right, rapture arise. Okay, so this is the fourth factor, right? And the fifth factor is because this rapture is also impermanent, right? The rapture is an incentive for the mind to come back together. So once the mind is collected, then the mind will have tranquility, right? So don't expect the rapture to be there all the time, right? So once there's sort of a rapture, there's a joy, right? It might lose, due to unmindfulness. You might have stray thoughts, go back to sensual pleasure. Then you need to rework again, to get back go through this phase of having this rapture. Then once it evolves, the next phase or the next step of evolution will be tranquility. Once the mind is enough of rapture, the mind will come down and feel tranquil, and followed by the next one, concentration. Okay, so this concentration is a vipassana kind of concentration. If a person think of impermanence, reduce desire, right? So you will develop a concentration born out of wisdom. Born out of wisdom. So a lot of artists, they depict, like this serpent coming up from behind, from the Buddha's head, or sometimes you see some picture, there's some kind of halo, some big circle of aura behind the Buddha's back or behind the Buddha's head, right? So some people meditate. I'm not sure there was a previous group, somebody asked, I meditate, I feel something, some kind of energy behind my head, and they ask this kind of question. Okay, so for some people, if they're sensitive, right, and certain phenomena like this may happen, right? So the whole idea is, again, these 4th, 5th, and 6th step, these are actually byproduct, right? So we have to continue to be mindful of this impermanence. So this is the process. I always emphasize mindful of this impermanence as a process. So don't get too attached to the next few products. And the last one is equanimity. Equanimity. So once the mind is calm, then it has equanimity, right? So if a person, earlier on we talked about restlessness, right? So to overcome restlessness, you need this equanimity, right? It can be a jhanic kind of equanimity, and it also can be this kind of wisdom, a vipassana kind of equanimity. So there are these few kinds of equanimity. So again, this equanimity, these 7 factors, they are part of this Dhamma. And this equanimity is not the end result, right? So if, let's say, you meditate, think of impermanence, then you come down, not yet enlightened, not yet enlightened, right? Then we move on to the next step. Next slide. Okay, so when I said not yet enlightened, so these are the things to take note, right? In a way, a person focus internally and externally, right? I mean, you're mindful of these dhammas, 5 heavy gates, right? The 4 elements, whatever it is, internally, externally, the 7 factors, all the way to the 7 factors of enlightenment. Then, yeah, he or she remains focused on the phenomenon, origination, and the passing away. So this is the next one, impermanence, and the next one would be, if you cannot observe impermanence, then you need to be mindful, at least, right? These things are present. Continue to be mindful of your object of meditation. And the whole idea is mindful of the goal, which is to not cling, right? Not cling. So if a person cling, then there will be tension, right? So there's a difference between these Satipatthana Sutta and Maha Satipatthana Sutta. So the difference is one more thing, the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Right? So the Maha Satipatthana Sutta has one more thing, this 4 Noble Truths and Eightfold Path inside this Dhamma. Right? So if a person, let's say when they meditate and they feel stressed, they have suffering, right? It's because they cling onto something. And if they want to reduce that clinging, right? Overcome this clinging, then they need to apply right thought, maybe observe the impermanence or whatever they do to reduce this clinging. So it's actually practicing mindfulness of the 4 Noble Truths. Mindfulness of the 4 Noble Truths and also the Eightfold Path. Right? So this is the theory, right? Trying to squeeze into, translate into the practice or vice versa, depending on which way you look at it. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, so this is the conclusion. Okay, conclusion would be if a person, right? If a person were to be mindful of these 4 frames of reference, so Ajahn Jeffrey translate this Satipatthana as 4 frames of reference, right? Maybe other translators will generally translate into the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So different wordings used, right? So if they mindful of this for 7 years, right? As long as you're awake every moment, 7 years, right? Either gnosis, that means either you reach arahanthood or a non-return. So it's either the last stage of enlightenment or the 3rd stage of enlightenment. So it's a very high kind of achievement, right? So but it takes 7 years. And then the Buddha give discount actually, right? So it say don't need 7 years, right? Don't need 7 years. If you are hardworking, right? Maybe 7 months. 7 months can. And actually 7 months, if you think still too long, never mind. If you are more hardworking, 7 weeks. 7 weeks also can. Right? 7 weeks also can achieve the goal. If 7 weeks too long, never mind. You're more hardworking. 7 days also can. Just 1 week, right? So the sutta ends with 7 days. But in the Buddha's time, there are some outstanding disciples. Some of them, after listening to one sermon, got enlightened already, right? But of course, they have their background. They practice for so long before meeting the Buddha. So again, this comes to the conclusion. We are at 5:30, right? So we have some time for guided meditation first, right? Before Q&A. Or you want the other way around?
Bhante, take the lead, whichever you find suitable.
Okay, so we have these, follow the program, guided first, guided meditation session first.
Okay.
Okay, so we find comfortable sitting kind of posture. I notice some people in Zoom, they have different venues for meditating and watching the talk. So they must travel to another room. So never mind, while waiting for them, we can sit upright, relax the body. And we are going to go through a shorter session because it's just half an hour. Or then leave more time for Q&A, right? So just a short run through. I know you are tired already after the whole day, right? So we're going to first close our eyes, right? And using the same routine, we are going to use the 4 foundations of mindfulness to sort of explain in theory, translate so that you can sort of synchronize. Okay, so if a person do these impurities of the body, so normally I just do the external parts. I don't go and do the internal parts because in the even for the monastics, right, when we ordain our ritual, ordination ritual, the preceptor will just ask us to think of the external parts of the body, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin. Right. So for monks, we only the minimum requirement is already just external parts. So I don't really expect the layperson to do all the 32 parts of the body. Okay, so we are going to just visualize the hair. So when a person visualize the hair, you are actually using your mind door. You're not using your eyes because your eyes are closed, right? So you're using your mind door. Yeah? So you have to understand which sense organ you are using, right? So you're using your mind door. So in your daily life, how to translate to daily life application. So right now we are actually using these impurities of body meditation as a kind of control, a control setting where we fix a visual image, right? In real life application, right? When we worry or plan something, sometimes it comes in the form of a visual kind of worry, right? Visual kind image, right? So how to tackle this visual image? You know, how to practice detachment for the visual image, right? So again, the first step we are going to do is use loving kindness. Wish your hair well and happy. So we are going to rephrase, right, in our mind, may all the hairs be well and happy. So from head to toe, we are going to wish all the hairs well and happy. So have to be mindful of the states of mind, yeah? Chittanusati, yeah? So the mind, from an aversion mind to a non-aversion mind, from a greedy mind to a non-greedy mind. So you must see the difference. So in meditation, we get more emotional, right? Not in negative sense, but more sensitive to the emotion. So once you have wished all the hairs well and happy, then we are going to introduce the other thought of non-greed, or even right mindfulness, the impermanence, rising and passing away of all the hairs. Right, so all these hairs are subject to birth and death. Right, so they grow long, they get dirty, oily, sweaty. They crack when it's dry, and they turn white when it's old. And eventually they fall off, yeah, passing away. So every day there's hairs falling off. And then we can reflect by asking ourselves, are these hairs truly self? This is also part of investigating the Dhamma. Yeah, in Buddhism we have this thing called the Tilakkhana, the three universal characteristics. Three things, right? First is the sort of the law of impermanence. Second, the law of suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and the last one, the law of non-self. Right, so it can be self-discovery or non-self-discovery, depending on which angle you look at it. So this visual image is also 5 aggregates, right? So sometimes people ask, how come the Buddha can teach so many kinds of meditation? We say there are 84,000 Dhamma doors, right? Because all the Dhamma doors, all of them are made of 5 aggregates. So it's the same principle, universal, standard kind of framework. And then the next part of the body we're going to think is the nails, yeah? So we're going to wish all the nails well and happy, right? Fingernails, right? May they be well and happy. And the toenails. May all the toenails be well and happy. And all the nails are subject to birth and death. Yeah, they grow long, they get dirty. So you have to observe your feelings, right? See whether they're unpleasant or pleasant. And they discolor, and sometimes due to disease or malnutrition. And they go through wear and tear. Sometimes they have scratches. Sometimes they have cracks. And sometimes they even chip off. Yeah? So in the Asubha Sutta, yeah, the Buddha mentioned this Asubha practice is an unpleasant path, right, to enlightenment versus the jhanic path, right? So again, if you do it correctly, from an unpleasant experience, looking at all the disgusting things, a person can also get rapture or joy if they do it correctly. And we can ask ourselves, reflect, yeah? Are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body we are going to visualize is our teeth, right? All the teeth in our mouth. May all the teeth be well and happy. So we wish all the upper rows of teeth. So maybe some of you have dentures, never mind, yeah, wish them well and happy. And we wish all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to birth and death. So the teeth will change in shape and size over time. They get dirty. All the food and all the plaque will build up, turn yellowish, turn brown, turn black through decay, and they start to grow holes. Or sometimes they wear and tear, have cavities, and they get shaky, get loose, and they fall off. And then we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death? And the next part of the body, we are going to think of our skin, right? So the skin that surround the entire body, may all the skin be well and happy. So you wish all the skin from head to toe, may they be well and happy. Once you have wished the entire skin well and happy, then we are going to think, contemplate that all this skin, they are subject to birth and death. Right, so the skin will get dirty, oily, sweaty. They wrinkle when it's old. They crack when it's dry. And all sorts of skin problems, yeah, from skin irritation, allergies, rashes, boils, pimples, pus, yeah, whatever. And the skin, they fall off every day, right? Also, dead skin fall out every day. So for those who are, let's say, practicing this Asubha meditation, if you want to take it as your main meditation object, right? The first thing is always have loving kindness first, and followed by thinking of impermanence. So you sort of move on quickly with the aging process. You don't stick to one. Think of the the disgusting part for a long time, right? The mind, there's a tendency to cling, and you can't really watch impermanence. then you might develop depression, right? So that's why I move on quickly. Right? And then we have to ask ourselves, are these skin truly self? Right? Can we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death? Okay, and the next phase of meditation we're doing is the restricted mind, right? We're going to watch the breath. So this one doesn't require any form of visualization using the body, the skin consciousness, right? So we are going to just use a sense of touch, right? Below the nostril, above the upper lip. And no need to control your breathing. Let your in and out breath be your natural reflex action. Right? And the whole idea is not to force the mind there. Right? Gentle attention. So we first do it by having loving kindness to the breath. Right? When you breathe in, wish the breath well, and breathe out, wish the breath happy. First step is very important. Make friends with the breath. Right? Reduce the desire of aversion. So even the invisible thing, right? Also, a lot of times we cannot be at peace with it already. So we try to train. Yeah. In Buddhist breath meditation, we're actually training this mind, yeah, to let go of the breath. Right? We are actually not training the breath. So maybe for other forms of meditation, maybe like Qigong or Chakra, they want to build up the breath energy or the vital energy. We are not doing that. Yeah, so we're actually training the mind to let go of the breath. Just like when we do the previous meditation, when we think of the hair, we are not training the hair. When we think of teeth, we are not training the teeth. Yeah, we're actually training this mind to let go. Right, so apply loving kindness. Yeah, breathe in well, breathe out happy. Okay, when the mind is calm, yeah, so as part of mindfulness of states of mind, right? When the mind is and is scattered or calmed down, Then the next one is introduce the other thought, right, which is non-greed. Right, so we're going to think of the impermanence of the breath, the rising and passing away of every breath moment. So we can use again the 4 elements. It's easier to identify because the breath is invisible, right? Or some people, they just use the wind element alone, right? So got to do it with the long and short breath, fast and slow movements. And you may include the other elements if you want, right? The heat element, hot or cold, earth element, dense or not so dense, right? And the water element, moist or dry. So whichever sensation that is most obvious to you, then you just be mindful of that change. So you can practice passive observation with a small area, right? That means below the nostril, that small area, how to train this passive mind, non-reactive mind. That means every stimuli, every sensation that come and go, you don't have to cling, you don't have to reject. So this is the training. If you need a reminder, it's impermanent by all means. If you don't need a reminder and you think your Kung Fu very good, you can just do nothing and still don't cling, or then that's the next level. So when the conditions are right, this non-greed, non-hatred, then the mind will settle down even further. So in the previously, we talked about stability point, the mind settle until you cannot settle further. So we're actually developing a tranquil mind. Yeah, due to the lack of time, I won't go through all the jhanas, right? All the levels of concentration, and we can sort of extend, right, this wisdom kind of peace to the entire body. So now we extend from one small area. Now we extend to this entire body. That means from head to toe. We enlarge this mind slightly bigger, right, to the entire body. So the same principle applies, right? With a non-reactive mind, how to maintain this tranquility or peace. So when the attention gets bigger, right, you experience more sense stimuli. Earlier on, it's just below the nostril. Now it's all over the place. Can be the neck, can be shoulders, can be your back, whatever it is, right? So all kinds of sensations, right? They appear and pass away, and you need to observe the impermanence and practice this detachment. Yeah, so the whole idea is keep on reminding yourself on impermanence. So I would recommend that a person would emphasize on the process of this investigation of impermanence, right? Observe the impermanence. Once you think you are comfortable with this slightly enlarged area, you can maintain this peace by being mindful of impermanence. Then we use the same principle, right? Then we apply to an even wider area. This time we sort of undirect the mind. That means this time that we don't give a limit. We don't limit the circumference of the mind. That means we let the mind be free. Or the mind want to run around, autopilot, scatter around, by all means. But you just, again, be mindful of the rising and passing away of the mind, of the elements, of your six sense bases. So this part, I call it the contact tracing exercise. So you have the six sense contact, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. So wherever your attention moves, you must know which point of contact, know how this attention arises, how it passes away. Okay, so with that in mind, we try to maintain mindfulness in whichever scenario. This is just, again, a template to practice, right? In daily life, it comes, the mental function will sort of arise in any situation. Sometimes we need to direct the mind at one point, maybe reading a book or reading a phone. Sometimes it can be directional, walking across the street. Right? We need to look across in a certain direction. So the mind will have various functions in various points of time. So the whole idea is to again be mindful of impermanence in all situations. Right? So with that in mind, then we can gently open our eyes. Right? It's about 6 o'clock, and it's the Q&A time.
Oh, Bante, today time passed very fast.
Oh yes, yeah. We're not mindful of the time, that's right. Are you able to see any questions from the maybe comments or something?
Give me a minute. The mind still blank.
Oh, okay. So you give some time, right, for the people in the Zoom, the room, to maybe ask questions. If your mind is blank, then maybe you can look at the comments first.
Okay, bro. Really say no question from Facebook.
Okay, all right. Everyone's blank, yeah.
Anyone from the Zoom want to ask a question?
Bante, can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, sure.
Just now I tried the light one because I always fall asleep during.
Okay.
It does really work. Every time when
Okay.
I feel my mind dozing off, I
Okay.
visualize the light in my mind, the head, and then
Okay.
I'm alert. I think that is
All
very
right.
good. Thank you very much. But then just now during the 5 hindrances, the first one, the sensual delight, the one, to overcome that, you have to go through the asubha. I find it very difficult to do asubha.
All right.
I don't find it pleasant. So besides
right.
asubha, what else can we do for the sensual? Because we enjoy our daily life. We love to watch movie. We love to eat good food.
Yeah,
So how
yeah,
to
correct.
overcome all this?
Yeah. Yeah, so because Asubha meditation is specifically designed to overcome, right, this counter lust or this desire, greed. Yeah, so this is the design of this meditation. So of course, if you can't take it or you can't stomach in certain imagery, then you can just do breath, something neutral, more neutral, breath meditation or loving kindness. That's fine, because actually any meditation object can eventually lead to enlightenment. You just need to practice it more holistically. That means add in elements of non-greed and non-hatred inside, and it's okay.
Okay, thank you. The asubha that the steps that you go through is easy. I can follow. I don't mind the hair and the thing. But the one that parents put on before the start, I go through the decaying of the body, all this. And it was after lunch. I find it so hard to stomach, really. I really threw up that off the whole computer sound.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that is not necessary, right? But the one that Bante just taught, I think is easy to follow about the hair falling off.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned it earlier on in the practical session for this last session. For layperson, I will just do the external parts of the body. Right? I think that's the minimum requirement. We just do the shareware version. We don't have to do all the 32 parts. All the internal organs and so on.
Ground, all this. Wow, sounds. Oh wow, I cannot.
Yeah, because even for monastics, right, in our ordination ceremony, right, one of the ritual is to just recite the 5 parts of the body, the external parts. Yeah, have the head, nails, have the skin, right? The nails, teeth, and skin, right? So these are for monks. You only just do external parts. That's the minimum already, right? That's the most basic. So if the monks just do this, I don't expect the the lay person to do even more, right? But if you want to do more, by all means, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Then meditation like this is very pleasant, but normally when we go for retreat, they will have standing, walking, and
Yeah.
sitting. So if we go through a meditation routine like this without walking, it's still fine, is it?
The whole idea is that because we cannot sit 24/7 throughout the whole day, we need different posture. Sometimes we need to stand, sometimes we need to walk, and sometimes we lie down, right? So the whole idea is to be practice this right mindfulness in whatever posture we are in. That's the whole idea, right? So as long as we are still awake, then we can observe these impermanence, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Bante,
Yes.
I have a question here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard you say that you experience joy or rapture on contemplation of the impurities of the body. Did you say that? Yeah. So if you did, then can you elaborate on that a bit?
Okay. Yeah, because every meditation object is actually designed can reach enlightenment one. Yes, that is according to the sutta method. So, but how to to sort of reach enlightenment? So the 7 factors enlightenment is actually one of the checkpoints. So it's like a requirement to go through that. So it's actually it's something like chain reaction. So if a person sort of fulfills the condition, they're mindful, investigating, and they have this enough effort put in, then one of the telltale signs that arise would be this rapture as a kind of byproduct, spiritual kind of rapture. So this is part of the checkpoint. Yeah.
Okay, Bante, thank you very much.
Right.
The other thing is I would like to also comment on the earlier question that they're asking about some mental, temporary mental illnesses, particular, whether they should do meditation or not, I would think that such people should go for therapy first before they do meditation, I think when they have recovered, then meditation can help them to sustain that state, rather than try meditation when you are depressed, when you have anxiety problems and all those psychotic problems. I think we should recover first. When we have recovered, then only we can put meditation to practice to sustain that good health.
I agree with you. Earlier on, I mentioned it's more about adjusting the frame of mind. Sometimes
yes.
The reason maybe some people have certain mental disturbances could be past situation. Like for example, in Buddhism, there are 2 popular case studies. Two ladies that gone crazy. If I'm not wrong, one of them is this Venerable Patachara, this lady. And the other one, I'm not sure the name. So one of them is because the child passed away. So she's carrying the dead child all around, running around naked and the kind of stuff. So there must be a cause for this unstable state of mind, right? So the whole idea is to first address the situation, So it takes a skillful, maybe a teacher or even a therapist, right, to address the root issue. So this is very important. You cannot straight away tell the person watch your breath or whatever. No, they won't listen. No, they want the dead person to recover, something like that. So this is their sort of their kind of delusion or expectation, right? So you need to address the root cause of the problem first. If not, they whatever treatment you give, they won't respond, right? So this is the whole issue. So same thing like the other lady. I forgot the name, but no, the whole family passed away.
Kisa Gotami, that is Patachara, isn't it? The whole family passed away.
Yeah, whole family passed away. Yeah.
And Kisa Gotami, the baby that passed away.
Yeah, correct. Yes, correct. Now I recall. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Okay. Yeah. So again,
Thank you very
these
much.
are
Thank you very much.
the root issues must address first. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that is
So
more
it can be
important.
counseling, whatever it is, that
Yes.
can
Yes.
solve the root problem first. Yeah.
But you did say it very accurately just now, like you said that you have to see that person first, before we conclude anything,
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that was very accurately put, Venerable. Yeah. Sadhu and
Okay, right.
Okay, but they one from me.
Okay.
Can you say something about the astral body? Is that nama rupa is in one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So astral body is what?
It's a mind-created kind of body, right? So again, it's beyond my field of expertise, but I can just mention, there are these things happening. There are some accounts, maybe in the suttas, where some people are able to travel around in this mind-created body to view the sky and whatever not. Yeah? So they don't have to physically sort of travel there, so they use this mind-created body to travel around and explore things. Yeah. So
Just
again, we
now,
call this worldly higher knowledge.
but just now, Bante mentioned the nama and rupa is like the heap of straw, right?
Yeah, it's like a
Mixed
deck of
together.
cards. Yeah, they are being stacked together.
Yeah.
You cannot, once you remove one, the other one will collapse. They are always together, nama rupa.
So this one, astral body, is another thing.
Yeah, it's a different kind of phenomenon, right? Okay, whichever it's got to do with understanding of this Buddhist kind of psychology, right? Let's say, okay, if a person is immersed into looking in a film, let's say they watch a movie or whatever it is, documentary film, right? Then let's say they are so engrossed in a character, right? It can be a hero, can be the main character, whatever it is. Then the main character, actor, actress, maybe gets injured or hurt. Do you feel injured and hurt as well? Yeah? You feel for the person also, right? You get emotionally affected. So this is called being born into that world, into that character, right? So you don't have to have an astral body to even experience this. So imagine a person do sort of create a sort of astral body, right? It can be a VR world or whatever it is. Then similar, right, to the VR kind of situation. So in that state, they also will experience dukkha, clinging of the senses, right? Either they experience pleasant or unpleasant things they see or explore, then they will experience clinging as well. So whatever state they are in, there will be this clinging, right? So a lot of things got to do with right contemplation. So in the previous week, the last week's retreat, I mentioned about this Adhibalo Vibhanga Sutta. Some people, if they want to develop these higher worldly knowledges, right? Prior to Buddha's time, they might think this is just the end goal. If you are able to fly, able to whatever, that's the very high spiritual attainment, right? But again, no. But okay, for those people who have these tendencies, and the Buddha talked about the sixth higher knowledge, which is able to transcend suffering, right? Overcome suffering. So for these people, know how to make use of these pre-existing kind of abilities, or if they have this potential, if they ever develop these abilities, how to further, contemplate on impermanence and how to reach enlightenment, right? So this is mentioned in the Adhibalo Vibhanga Sutta. Again, is not meant for everyone. It's maybe specific group of audience, right? So I don't encourage everybody to practice this route. Yeah.
Thank you, Bante.
All right.
Okay, Bante, I have another question. Not question. Clarification here. You correlated Kama Tangha, Bhava Tangha, and Vibhava Tangha.
Yeah.
As greed, hatred, and delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can elaborate, Venerable?
Yeah. Kama Tanha, right? In the first sutta, they mentioned as craving for sensual pleasure.
Yes.
Right? That means you have greed. That means anything nice from the senses you like, then you want. So that is, in short, you can call it greed.
Okay.
Greed. Yeah. So vibhava tanha means the opposite. Anything you don't want, you want to destroy, you want to get rid. Yeah, annihilate. So that is, we can call it hatred. So you want to reject, want to hatred, you want to destroy it. So this is vibhava tanha. Right? Then there's another bhava tanha. That means wanting to live forever. So in that context, sometimes people, let's say, they're absorbed in samadhi, they don't want to reflect on impermanence, and they think, oh, that it is. That's the end goal. They want to be in that state forever, right? So that is for people who are into this form or formless kind of bhava, right? There's another kind of bhava, this desire kind of bhava, desire, form, and formless kind of bhava, three kinds of bhava. So for desire kind of bhava, that would be from our daily experiences from the senses, from the nice things you experience in life, your life is comfortable, everything is smooth sailing, then you want to be like that forever. So that is another kind of delusion.
Okay, very much.
Yep. All right.
Sadhu.
Okay.
Sister Huilin, want to share anything?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
This Dean, is it a brother? Can't see his face. Is it from Singapore, Bante?
I have no idea.
Just now, Bante mentioned, say, one from Singapore. Did he join
Yes, yeah.
this session?
Kim Chong, Kim Chong.
Kim Chong, okay.
Yeah.
Your disciple?
One of the meditation groups.
Welcome to Malaysia. Astro body.
And the Buddha's time, right? Sometimes he can telepathically teach people, sometimes using like a hologram mental image. So now we have Zoom, right? So convenient that we don't even need all these abilities now, right? So I remember there's a story, in the Buddha's time. There's a yogi, he spent 25 years to develop this ability to just to fly across a river, right? So 25 years he's cultivating this ability to fly across the river. One day he's so successful, he managed to fly across and he landed across to the other shore, the other bank of the river. Then he's celebrating, he's like dancing and shouting aloud, and the Buddha happened to walk past, right? And asked him, why are you dancing and shouting, and why are you so happy? So this yogi told the Buddha, for 25 years I've been cultivating, learning how to fly across this river, right? So the Buddha knew what's going on and told him, actually, there's a boatman, right? Just nearby. You can just ask him to ferry you across the river. It just takes a short while. You don't need to spend 25 years. Right? So this is actually the Buddha's take on developing these abilities, right? Right? If your purpose of meditating is just to develop this thing, then it's a waste of time. Right?
Okay, anybody else want to share something before we end the session?
Okay, now it's what time?
It's almost 6:30.
Nothing in the comments.
Well, really, very quiet today.
Yeah, I'd like to ask something.
Okay.
I'd like to share
Yes.
something.
All right, sure.
Just now when we were doing the meditation about
Sister Kut, I can't hear you properly.
Okay.
Okay.
No, because I'm so close to her now.
Now, just now when is it okay now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay. When we did the meditation about, may our hair be well and happy, when I did on the hair, I had this feeling of sadness a little bit. You know, you say the hair will drop, and then the hair, you know, will grow white, and then it will drop. So there's this feeling of sadness. Is this a normal thing?
Yeah, so if a person sort of sees suffering, right, naturally there will be a bit of this sadness. That we call this, there are various degrees of compassion actually. Yeah, various degrees of compassion. So first you have compassion to yourself, and you see suffering, you see birth and death in yourself. Then of course you can extend externally, from yourself. Then you extend the bigger area. I wish all beings were happy. Then of course all beings you want to contemplate, they also go through this birth, aging, sickness, and death. You can extend the compassion outwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Because
no
I'm
problem.
new to meditation. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Anthony?
No. Okay.
Okay, then should we end the session, Bhante?
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
if there's nothing on, then yeah.
Okay, then we'll invite Bhante to share the dedicate the marriage.
Okay, all right.
I'll share the screen first. Give me a
Okay.
second. Can you all see?
Okay, so now we do this Anumodana. So after we have this, we call it meritorious, kind of wholesome deeds. Whatever we do can be meditation, doing charitable act, right? Then it's sort of a good habit to dedicate them to various beings. So here are the verses. Akasata ca bhumata devanaga mahidika punyang tang anumodhitva cirang rakantu loka sasanam etavata ca amhehi sapadang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe buddha sabbe satta anumodantu Sabba Sampati Siddhya. Transference of merits to the departed. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani banapatiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Right, thank you.
Like Bhante mentioned earlier just now, he'll be online again. He'll be joining us on the 21st of July. That means he's a few days away, yeah?
Yep.
On every Tuesdays. 8:30 p.m. the session will start. The Zoom room will open at about 8:15. Yeah, hope to see you all there.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Anything else to mention, Bhante?
Nothing, yeah?
Yeah. From everyone, it's okay, yeah?
It looks like it's only like for another 6 weeks, is it? Is that like a fixed, only 6 Tuesdays that we are going to go through Bhante, the practice?
Bhante?
No, it's up to you. You're the organizers.
Because I see the dates there, only 6 days only.
Yeah.
So hopefully 6 days we can gain stream and thrill, is it? Bhante mentioned just now 7 days.
It's only 1.5 hours, 2 hours only, right? 1.5.
So the session will be some sharing also, is it, Bhante?
Yeah, the format will be a bit of a presentation, a bit of theory, then some practice, and then the Q&A towards the end. So it's just 3 parts.
So anybody still can ask some meditation question and all that, right?
Yeah.
Almost the same thing, except it's shorter period.
Yeah, correct. Shorter duration. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll send you the email again. Yeah, the PowerPoint. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good
Sadhu,
night.
sadhu,
Good evening
sadhu.
ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.